Hello, hello. So we're gonna be talking about belly fat today, you guys. And let me just do something on my phone. It says do not disturb, and that way we're not gonna get disconnected from lovely Instagram. Okay, am I back on? Looks like it. All right. So we're talking about belly fat today, and some of the strategies that you can deploy to really help yourself. I just want to tell you, like, this is like one of the most common symptoms of entering perimenopause is when few things start happening, right? One is that you might start developing belly fat. You go like, I've always had a nice trim tummy, and what's going on? And it's like a little bit of either a jiggly or it just gets disdented, right? And you've never carried weight there ever before. Or it could be that you are having shorter cycles. We're going to be talking a lot more about perimenopause in July, you guys. I want to do a lot. We are preparing for launching a quiz that's for about perimenopause. I think it's a very underestimated area, and I just want to do a lot more empowerment and education around it so that you know what's normal and maybe what's not. So Ashley's saying she's showing like little fires, so I'm assuming you're talking about hot flashes. Yes, hot flashes, very much so. About when you enter perimenopause, those are like the early indications that something is hormonally changing. And Fabiana is saying belly horror. Yeah, I hear you. And I think it's important just to reframe this a little bit, that your body, and not really hating, not hating your body, not hating any parts of your body in any way, but more embracing it and saying, my body just needs some help from me. Let me find out what it is, because that's a lot more sort of kind of anabolic way of looking at it and thinking of that phenomenon called perimenopause as compared to just hating your body, right? So I want to just preface it by saying, I'm not gonna, there is no magic pill, although Instagram and a lot of Facebook ads might be telling you otherwise, that there is one pill for everything, right? And for belly fat, if there was one pill, you would know about it by now. So okay, it's a pretty complex. It can be a little bit, I want to say complex, but I want to say it's multifactorial. So same as like adrenal issues, for example. It can be that there isn't just like, oh, you're gonna pop some adaptogens and everything is gonna be dandy, right? You're gonna like sleep again, your energy is gonna come back, you're not gonna be stressed out anymore. I don't want to promise you things like that, because it's just dishonest, and it sets the expectations the wrong way, and then you're gonna be angry with me and with yourself that you're doing all the supplements and it's not helping. So we are going to talk about a couple of supplements that can help, but I also want to preface it by saying there is a number of things that you need to do in order to see a movement in your belly fat. Okay, and for me to talk about solutions, let me just talk a little bit. Yes, probiotic will help, Fabiana, and I'm going to talk about belly, your digestive health in just a second. But one of the biggest things that happens, if you think about it, like when you start entering perimenopause, right, is your estrogen starts dropping, your progesterone starts dropping, your blood sugar levels are not the same what they used to be, right? So you're a lot more sensitive to sugar as compared to before. You might be experiencing a lot more inflammation as compared to when you were in your 20s and 30s, right? And let's see, so your insulin receptors are just not working the same. So those are the things that we need to correct in order to see the movement in the belly fat. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So let me address the first thing, which is a lot of women struggle with, and I think this is it's a serious issue. It's a real issue that you may not realize, especially in the United States. One of the things that I've noticed when I moved to the US was how much sugar there is in everything, and how many people are so desensitized from tasting sugar that they don't even realize how much sugar there is in something. And so for example, I'll go out with some girlfriends for cocktails, and I'm thinking, I can barely taste anything else other than sugar. And I'm like, this is really sweet. And they go, No, it's not. It's normal. That's just how a margarita is in the US. And I'm like, wow, there is sugar in kielbasa, which as a Polish-born person, I find quite odd and rude, because you don't put sugar in kielbasa. Or, ketchups and soups and juices and smoothies, like everything has so much sugar. So one of my suggestions for you going into the weekend, as much as I hate doing micromanagement, like I will never ask you like sit and count calories, right? Consider doing this exercise for yourself, just like over the course of the next, let's say from today is Thursday till, let's say till Sunday, over the next few days, when you actually jot down how much sugar there is in all the produce that you tend to buy, whether it's your gluten-free cookies or whether it's a juice that you often grab and go, whether it's your ketchup, whether it's the soup, whether it's, your yerba mate tea. I mean, I remember, picking up this yerba mate tea in a bottle, and it's a wonderful brand. It's an organic yerba mate, the sweetened one. And I'm like, I could not believe it, that it had like 40 grams of sugar in it. 40 grams of sugar, you guys, you divide it by 10. Divided by 4 for simplicity. It's actually 3.8, but divided by 4, then you get a number of teaspoons from it. So this yerba mate tea, a jar, just a glass, a bottle, which I would have drank the whole thing, was basically 10 teaspoons already, okay? And if you want to reverse prediabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, if you want to be, kind of like do a sugar detox, if you will, a healthy amount of sugar is about 20 grams a day. And that is my limit. I try not to go over 20 grams, which is 5 teaspoons of sugar all in. Meaning that if I have a banana, Google it and see how much a banana has. If you're putting a banana into your smoothie, hopefully not first thing in the morning, then you will see how much sugar there is there, right? And just learn how to, if an apple, see how much there is in sugar as there is in an apple. And so in your granola, I can go on, it's like there's sugar in everything in this country. And so when you do that, you'll be surprised what you might come up with. In the program that I'm teaching and in my books as well, I mentioned there, just as an example, Starbucks Frappuccino. I mean, who wants to guess how much sugar? You can either give me teaspoons or grams. Do you think there is in a Starbucks Frappuccino? And that's not even the worst offender, just by the way, but just because it's so popular. So how many sugar, what is sugar content you think in Starbucks Frappuccino? So just post in there, and then I can tell you how close, how correct, or how off you are about that. But those are things that we don't realize. Instead, they show you calories, which is kind of useless, because, when you get calories from a handful of nuts like almonds versus getting your calories from sugar, is very different calories. These calories from sugar are very destructive, very addictive, very nutrient depleting. So TF is saying 120 grams. So that will be divided by 4, 30 teaspoons, 34 grams. No, not 34 grams. So 50 grams, 55 grams, different people are guessing here. So let me actually just open up my, there's a document that I was just working on recently. Let me just open it up to make sure to give you like the final number. And it could be that if changed that, this is the number from last year. So there is 88 grams of sugar in a Java chip Frappuccino blended coffee from Starbucks. That's 26.5 teaspoons of sugar. I mean, that is disgusting. And, and you go and taste it. Here's the thing. Oh, that's another thing I want to share with you. We're going into summer, right? And what happens is in all the sugar, in all this sweet stuff that is cold, you actually don't realize how much sugar there is, because when you put cold in your mouth, your receptors get kind of frozen and your sense of taste for sweetness diminishes. So if you've ever eaten ice cream that's melted, it's disgusting, right? But if you are eating it frozen, it tastes pretty good, right? And so that is how different it can be. So we are going into warmer months. And so I'm just saying, just be really, really aware for that smoothie that you are getting, for that frappuccino, for any kind of a cold drink, iced drink, right? I'm not saying don't do it. Just be aware that if you're doing 26.5 teaspoons of sugar with this frappuccino, whatever is the summer drink you're drinking, I mean, that belly fat ain't gonna go anywhere. You know what I mean? So there is that. If you're on our mailing list today, we sent an email about sugar alternatives. So not like those xylitols and mannitols and all that stuff, because that can cause a lot of GI issues. But like monk fruit, stevia are good examples. And I know many of you will say, like, I hate monk fruit, I hate stevia, I don't like them either. But the trick then would be, especially if you're making things at home, is to reduce your regular sugar amount by half or even more, and then do a few drops of monk fruit or stevia. And that way you won't taste it, but the whole sense of sweetness goes up. But it's just that it's not going to be stevia only with that weird aftertaste to it, right? So, so this is the reason why I'm just, I'm sharing this with you, because yeah, sure. I mean, I can push at you guys supplements that we have about blood sugar balance, and it's called Glucomaximus, and it helps you with balance your blood sugar levels, and it resensitizes your insulin receptors, which is another thing I'm going to talk about in a second. But the thing is that if you're consuming, you know what I mean, like 40 grams, 100 grams of sugar every day, the supplement can only go that far. Your body is just like struggling with processing this sugar. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from, that it is really an orchestrated effort. And I think it's not just going to help your belly fat, but it's going to help your attention, sleep is going to probably help if you have anxiety issues, it might help your anxiety. A lot of people don't realize that actually fluctuating blood sugar levels is the major cause behind anxiety. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking about demonizing sugar, but I'm not demonizing it. I am demonizing it for a good reason. So just be super aware. So who here is going to do a little count of your favorite things, your cookies, your juices, your smoothies, your ice cream, your, ketchup, your soups? Do a little count this weekend, and see what you're getting. Okay. So post here if you're doing it this weekend. That's I want to encourage you to do that as your weekend project. Gluten-free ice cream doesn't cut it. It's so what is gluten-free? It can still be loaded with sugar. That's not the point. So let's talk about the next issue, and that's lack of insulin sensitivity. So the thing is that, as we get older, our receptors for insulin are not as sensitive as before. So let me just explain that. Insulin is like a key that opens up a cell door, opens the door, and lets the glucose in from your bloodstream. Okay. Now, what happens is that when you are getting older, that lock becomes kind of old and rusty, and the insulin does not get into the lock and open up the cell to sweep up glucose off your bloodstream as effectively. And the end result is that you have a lot more blood sugar levels as you get older, and that can be a real struggle. And so the body is so smart. So instead of doing damage, sugar does a lot of damage to the body. Excuse me. And so instead of letting the body needs to get rid of the sugar somehow. You can't poop it out or pee it out. So what happens is it deposits it in the belly, because it is the safest place for the body to deposit fat. And by the way, sugar converts to fat, and fat is not the reason behind your fat. Okay, it's just an oversimplification. The sugar is the bigger culprit here. So I hope you understand that when you are getting older in that way, it just takes even a little bit more work to kind of work on yourself, right? And so what can you do? So this is where some of the botanicals can be really helpful. A few things here that can really help a lot: resynthesize your insulin receptors. And the biggest thing is going to be things like berberine. You can consider cinnamon. You can consider fenugreek. Those are all in Ayurveda. Those are all botanicals that are used to either they lower blood sugar levels because they make insulin receptors more receptive. And so let's say what else? Jamnema is another one. And those are all botanicals that are found in our supplement called Glucomaximus that you can find as part of the Belly Kit on our website. So that's about sugar. And, and here's the thing, when I ask you guys, like, who's going to do a sugar count, like not a single person is saying they will do it. But, at the same time, our probiotic is sold out. Our belly fat probiotic is sold out. And again, it's like that mentality of like going after that one pill, give me that one pill to see results. And that's kind of frustrating for me a little bit, because I also want to be honest and truthful with you that probiotic can only go so far if you are binging on sugar every day. Okay. If you have a problem with sugar, if you're not even aware of how much sugar you're consuming. So I just want you to be, if you follow us and you want to get results, then know that no one pill is going to fix it all. And also to kind of check yourself. It's like, am I that one pill person? Okay. We have to put in the work. Yes, we do. Okay. So let me move on to the next one. That's correcting. Well, since we're talking about probiotics, I might as well cover that. So there is a probiotic we just released. It's called Flat Belly Probiotic. And you can find it on our website. We sold out in 2 days, you guys. And so we are ordering more. We're going to be shipping it next week. So it's on pre-order right now. Okay. And so, yes, it does have a strain called Bifidobacillus animalis. And the research shows that it does do a few nice things, including it reduces appetite to like in a healthy way. It helps to reduce fat mass in the body. It helps to, and it restores just the digestive balance. And so a lot of people have been reporting when we released the product like about 6 months ago, that they feel like their bellies they finally don't have bloating and stuff like that going on, which is awesome to hear. So that's great. So I think if you combine this probiotic with, reduction of sugar, add a couple of botanicals like the fenugreek, cinnamon, gymnema, berberine, right, to upregulate your insulin sensitivity in the body, then this can really produce amazing results. So the other two reasons why and fixes is that progesterone and estrogen tends to be on a low side as we enter perimenopause, right? And so, a lot of times belly fat starts happening as our hormones plummet. It can also go oftentimes with inflammation going up and that cortisol going up as well, right? So let me address the inflammation. Let me actually talk about inflammation first, because that's a part which is again, there is like, you can do all the turmeric you want, okay? But if your diet is highly inflammatory, if you're super stressed out, if you're in toxic relationships, this inflammation is gonna be really hard for the turmeric to lower, or the essential omegas, omega-3s and stuff like that, right? Without addressing your health a little bit more holistically. And so, if you want to lower inflammation in your body, I want to encourage you to consider going on an anti-inflammatory diet. Try doing the elimination diet that covers both of my books. Both of my books are based on the elimination diet, when you're cutting out gluten, dairy, soy, corn, eggs, just for a few weeks, and then after that, you're introducing the foods. You'll see what food is your friend, what's the culprit, and also the recipes are very low in sugar. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do for inflammation. And then the other, because remember, inflammation drives up your cortisol levels. Cortisol is a steroid hormone, right? Who here knows someone who has been taking steroids because of whatever reason, right? A lot of times, most people don't take steroids for fun. It's typically because, excuse me, there is a serious need that I have in the body. And how many of you here know somebody, maybe that was you, has taken steroid and then put on weight, right? And no matter how you cut down your calories, it's just, you're still gonna put on weight. And it's that kind of like weight gain, right? It's like a water weight. It's like a puffiness, right? It's not like fat. It's just you feeling puffy and heavy. So guess what? Cortisol, when you're inflamed, your cortisol goes up. And guess what? Cortisol is a steroid hormone. It's like you're basically injecting yourself with steroids all the time. Okay. And that's kind of a scary thought if you think about it, right? and so really that's why lowering inflammation, whether it's through stress or whatever is the cause of your inflammation. We've talked a lot about inflammation in the past couple of months. You can go back to our previous post and take a look at that and how to lower inflammation. Everybody has a different way of doing it because it all depends where your inflammation is coming from, right? So the next one is, the reason why you have belly fat is because of low testosterone, low estrogen and low progesterone. And that's typically starts happening. I think that it's not fully understood why that happens. My theory on especially on the estrogen part is that as the estrogen starts dropping, the body's asking to produce more estrogen and our ovaries are just not producing anymore. When you're stressed out, your adrenals typically step in and stop producing estrogen and progesterone. But if you are under a lot of stress and inflammation, your adrenals are not going to produce sufficient sufficient estrogen because they are so busy producing cortisol. And so the body then is asking for another source. So if it's not the ovaries, it's not the adrenals, then what's the next organ? And the next organ is going to be your belly fat. So belly fat, visceral fat, is actually an endocrine organ as well. Did you know that? And you can actually produce hormones through that belly fat. And so my theory on that is that when the ovaries are not producing, because we're going through perimenopause and menopause, the adrenals are too tapped out, helping you deal with whatever stress you're dealing with, and inflammation. So your cortisol is high, your adrenals are too busy. Then your body is like, I need to produce that fat in the body, store it there, because then I can produce estrogen. That's my theory. And there is no good explanation on why that is so because of hormones, but that's what I think is a pretty plausible explanation. What can you do? Well, if it's progesterone, you can correct it either through using Vitex, also known as chaseberry, or you can do that by doing bioidentical progesterone. By the way, we're just about to launch. In a week or two, we're going to be launching a chaseberry in our store. And then when it comes to progesterone cream, that is something that I'm a bigger fan of topical versus doing that orally. And we do have one in our store. If you want to support us, that's great. Progesterone is one of our top selling products because it just generates amazing results for women. Lastly, estrogen. So dropping estrogen levels, like what I've explained just now. One of the things that you can do, a couple of things. One is you can do a couple of tablespoons of flaxseed in a glass of water. That's what I do every night. And that is a source of wonderful phytoestrogens, so naturally occurring estrogens that might help you. And if you feel like that's not enough, by the way, when your estrogen starts dropping, you start feeling a lot of other things, including you might be forgetting words, you might be forgetting names, you might be becoming a little bit incontinent, like when you go and jump rope or you're laughing while standing, you might kind of be like, oops, I peed myself. Your energy might not be the same. You might be experiencing mood swings. Your muscles might not be as strong. You might be feeling like you're beginning to lose muscle form. Your skin starts sagging, right? So those are all the symptoms of estrogen dropping. So flaxseed might help, but it might help some women, and it might not be enough for others. So if you want to consider then doing estrogen in the form of phytoestrogens, other phytoestrogens than just flaxseed, there's a few other options. We have one in our store called Estrogen Boost. It contains hops, which is pretty amazing. It has got even a higher concentration of phytoestrogens compared to soy. And it also contains Norwegian spruce, which is also an amazing source of phytoestrogen. So that product has incredible amount of research on hot flashes, resolving hot flashes in women and stuff like that. So there's a few ways of you can really increase your estrogen levels. Okay, so I think when you address all of those issues together, inflammation, reducing blood sugar consumption, helping your body for their insulin receptors to become a little bit more sensitive to insulin so that you clear out the glucose from the blood. You lower inflammation through an anti-inflammatory diet, correct your estrogen, correct your progesterone levels. You're going to be set up so much more for success as compared to be just like, I just want to do one pill and I'm expecting my belly fat to disappear in 2 weeks. Jen, let's do a couple of questions, and I got a hard stop today, so in about 5 minutes. So let's do a couple of questions. Sarah is saying, when insulin is released into the body while eating, how long does it stay in the body to help before releasing more insulin while eating? I don't remember that right now. It's actually pretty instant, because it is not really, it's when you are eating, it's the glucose that gets released, and then your pancreas immediately produce insulin in order to answer the spike. So they typically, like, if you look at the charts, it's when the one goes up, the other one goes up to clear it out. So it's actually pretty instant. That's provided your pancreas are producing insulin correctly, and that's provided that your the insulin receptors are open to clearing out all that glucose quickly. Tracy's saying, I follow a very low sugar, very low carb diet for many years and have gained 20 unwanted pounds in the last 2 years with no change in anything. I'm 47. Yeah. So I'm not saying that sugar is the answer for everything. I think there's enough people here with prediabetes and diabetes who are consuming way too much sugar, so that's more addressed for them. I think, Tracy, there is, a lot of other issues, like what I mentioned about the inflammation, like where's yours coming from, right? And there is, and so I don't know your health history, but there's a lot of things that I mentioned here: stress, toxicity, heavy metals, parasites, can all be contributing towards a gross amount of inflammation in the body, and that's why weight can go up. One of the things that I used to do was one of the most difficult clients I've ever worked with was in New York City, because everybody's so busy and everybody's so stressed out, and their weekend is like even more packed than their week, and people get no rest and no sleep. And so it was really interesting to see. I only had like one client who was compliant enough to start sleeping more, and just by sleeping more, she started losing weight. So it's actually it's interesting, right? Like just by doing less, reducing stress, relaxing more. It's so sugar is not the only reason for putting on weight. So just want to be clear, it could be a lot of other reasons that I mentioned. How do I lower cortisol naturally? My inflammation is through the roof with autoimmunity. So, Gina, we did a whole big segment on inflammation a couple of months ago. If you can just go back to our post and see, what causes inflammation. If you're on a mailing list, then I typically go into a lot of details of inflammation. I mean, there's so many things that, like just now I mentioned, a lot of people don't realize this, right? But heavy metals can be a cause of inflammation. Parasites can be one. Having a viral infection without realizing, a very dormant one. Having bacterial infection. Having unresolved trauma. I mean, there's more. I'm being more and more appreciative in my practice. Just of the fact that some people have a lot of trauma from the past, and they've managed to deal with it for years. But then sometimes when it comes to perimenopause and menopause, we come to a point where we don't deal with it as well, and our bodies are falling apart. And so Gina, I don't know the answer to that. There is so many different causes for inflammation, especially with autoimmunity. If you follow like Dr. Isabella Wenz or Dr. Terry Walls, they both write a lot about autoimmunity, and diet is on the forefront, but they have a lot of other layers to what causes immunity and inflammation, right? That I think it's worthwhile going check, item by item and seeing this. And don't be selective. One of the things that I've noticed about, like, when we create these lists, I'll give you an example, and I think I tend to do that as well. I had a neighbor who had a health challenge, and so I gave her a list of things to do, to check. And she's like, yeah, I'm already doing this. And I'm like, okay, but what about these 3 things? And they were big things, important things. She's like, I don't think it's the reason. And I'm like, I think it is. It was basically, she had challenges with her skin, right? And I'm just like, you can't be saying that dairy has no impact on your skin issues or that gluten has no impact on you. But I think a lot of times is either inconvenient or because it is We don't know what to start with this, whatever is the reason. So we kind of be like, that's not the reason. So just be honest with yourself. Like when you're going through these checklists, and we tend to be very comprehensive with our checklist, is something that, like a lot of people are in denial about having parasites. Let me do a reality check for you here. 70% of people have had a parasites in their lives at some way or another. I've had them a number of times. And you don't have to be like traveling to Africa or Asia to get it. You can just have it because somebody did not wash their hands and they touched their, whatever, and you got it from the bathroom, and it's easy to to get it. And especially when you have a low stomach acid, you have a lot of acid reflux. You've been put on anti-acids. Well, welcome to the club of the parasite infected, because parasites get killed by good amount of acid in your stomach. If you have low stomach acid, they swim right through it and get into intestine. So anyway, that could be a great source of inflammation. Lisa is saying parasites cleanse for me, help me some inflammation. Can be surprising, the cause. Yeah, it really can be. So anyway, so I think that's all we have. Somebody's asking about chromium. Yes, chromium is also not a great one. For chromium picolinate or chromium glycinate are really great ones for managing your blood sugar levels as well. So chromium tends to lower your blood sugar levels. I like to combine it with botanicals that also help you to upregulate your insulin receptors. So that's another one. Do you have a book? Yes, in fact, I have 2 books, Lisa. If you go on Amazon, if you're in the US, you go on Amazon and just enter my name, Magdalena Hormones. Both the books should show up. And one of them is called Cooking for Hormone Balance. The other one is called Overcoming Estrogen Dominance. So cool. All right. Thanks you guys for being here today. I hope you have, I hope I've given you a good project to work on this weekend in case you're coming in late. Count the amount of sugar you're consuming in your favorite foods, and you will be in for a very unpleasant surprise. But that's good, because then it gives you opens your eyes up to what you can do to really reduce sugar consumption. You're going to see a lot of changes in your life, not just belly fat potentially reducing, but you might be sleeping better, having less anxiety, having better quality skin, just have actually a lot more energy, surprisingly. So a lot of really good things can happen. I need to drop off. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. And I'll see you. It's gonna be, I'm actually gonna be here away for a couple of weeks, and then we're gonna be coming back, and I'm gonna be talking about the elemental diet. So for those of you, just heads up, I'm gonna be talking to a friend of mine who is specializing in elemental diet. It's a very, very specific protocol for people who deal with a lot of digestive issues. If you have Crohn's, consistent SIBO, celiac disease, if you have had ulcerative colitis, or someone, those are really, this is a really great call for you for really learning how to do this for 2 weeks. It's a 2-week program that really produces amazing results. And so it's not for someone who, like, if you have not done the elimination diet, this is not a call for you. If you've done a lot of different elimination diets and your digestion is just chronically impaired, I wanna really encourage you to attend the call on the 25th with Dr. Roy and Debbie Steinbach about the elemental diet. It's gonna be a good one. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.